Seiltanzen ist einfach. Man muss es nur können. So to walk on a high line without a net below you is very easy. All you need to do is to be able to do it well.
Probably my first question would be, what is interpretation for you? Do you have some kind of definition?
Yeah, I think I do. You know, I often compare what we do as classical singers to what you see on television when you watch ice skating. When you see ice skating and the Olympics, you know that it's a sport, and you get judged for the quadruple toe loop and the double axel, and how fast your spins are and how spectacular your landing is, and all this, the really sporty elements of what it is that makes a great ice skater an Olympic gold medalist. But what actually makes the Olympic gold medalist a gold medalist is that he does all of those things that are important to his routine. Some would say he does it better than everybody else, but better is a terrible word. Better, faster, lighter, those things don't count. The reason he wins time and time again is because he makes his performance his own. So yes, you have to land the quadruple toe loop. But when at the end of his interpretation, and that's why some people, don't really think that figure skating is enough of a sport. When at the end of his interpretation there's an artistic element, which is nothing else than his personal or her personal interpretation that shows his ease with what he does and makes the rest of us sit there with our jaws dropping to the floor because he or she is so awesome. That is interpretation. And Nicholas Harnoncourt had this great sentence that he said. He had several great sentences, but one of the sentences he used to say is that ein Musiker muss den Teufel im Bauch haben. A musician has to have the devil in his soul, in his gut. And what that really means is that you have to hunger for what it is that you like to do, like you hunger for a great meal after working in the fields for a long day. In other words, how do you do great art? How do you interpret? You have to, I think in life in general, anything that you do well has to look like child's play to others. So you live in the moment, and what I've learned in music is that you've got to borrow from the jazz musicians. And the jazz musicians in turn borrowed it from the Baroque musicians. And they borrowed it in turn from the medieval musicians, which is that you need to make music in the moment. You need to let your soul go, and you need to interpret slightly differently than anybody else. You need to make your own interpretation happen. And those are those little undefinable moments, those little almost haughty, German say frech, moments where you just do it slightly differently. And if you do it truthfully rather than just for effect, then it just hits the people so deeply. My grandfather used to have this great saying in German, auf dem Seil zu gehen, Seiltanzen ist einfach. Man muss es nur können. So to walk on a high line without a net below you is very easy. All you need to do is to be able to do it well. In other words, everything that you do well in life and everything that is child's play to others or looks like child's play is a matter of deep, deep fundamental concentration, and before that, an unbelievable amount of work to get there. It is true that we singers have an incredible gift, and that's called the text. So when you learn the great operas of the world or the great song cycles of Schubert, you generally get to spend some wonderful time with some incredible texts. You get to spend time going very deeply into some of the greatest philosophies of the world, which then the composers used to make their music because they were inspired by this. So this is the fountain of truth, is the text. Everything comes from the text. Music, except for one song in the world, that started with just music and then became a text, is not as good as music that was inspired by words, by drama, by something important. So if I learn an opera and somebody says, Michael, can you sing Flying Dutchman for us? I open the score, I look at it, I see, you know, who has sung it before. So I'm a lyric tenor with a Mozart background that can sing anything from early Baroque music all the way to Wagner. That's the if you compare that with boxing, it's sort of an upper middleweight, yeah, even though I look like a heavyweight, yeah. So and then you see all the great boxers who fought. So if it was heavyweight, you'd see, how did George Foreman survive it? How long did Muhammad Ali last? And all these greats you see. And then the same applies in the tenor world. You see, how did Fritz Wunderlich sing this role? Did Anton Dermotter sing this role? Did Patzak sing this role? I don't get to compare to some of the Italians because it's not that sort of, stuff. Then I look at it and I think, well, that's possible because, it should be logical that I do it. Or these guys didn't sing it, but I could because I think I'm different because of these other reasons. Then I look at the score. Then I start singing the opera, then I start learning the opera, then I look at the text deeply, and as I learn it, I then get together with a coach, and after I've learned the music for myself, I get together with a vocal coach, and that is normally a great pianist who's also very experienced in conducting, and knows the repertoire, and we work, and this is like training. This is like me and the shadow boxer in the ring, and we do this for many weeks. And as I do this, I learn it by memory. And, from the moment that I open the score, and the pages are still such that, it's like you have to open the book because it's not been opened before, to the moment that I can go on stage and sing it in a rehearsal and be ready and be by memory takes 6 weeks. That's for a big opera. When I look at, at me, Michael Schade, the singer. So Michael Schade, the singer, is somebody who knows that there is no guarantees in this life, that there is no you've made it, therefore you get. The word Anspruch in German, which means to have the right to receive something, just doesn't exist in the arts. There's a bit of a Broadway rule in life in general, which is that you're only as good as your next show. No, you're only as good as your last show, and you're only as important as your next show. And there's another Broadway saying that shit happens, and then you move on, And if something really bad happens, you're supposed to say next. And I think the search for next is what I've always been about. If there's one thing this Corona crisis has taught me, is that we need to be the entrepreneurs that we've also meant to be, And singers have always had to, avoid wars and plagues and travel around the globe and if France was closed because of the plague, then maybe you had to better go off to England, and better learn another language quickly because you just have to survive. And if you were employed at the court of so and so, and your count went off to war, then you had to go with. I mean, we musicians have always had to think on our feet, really. No, I think life is pretty damn simple. Keep your shit together, clear the dishwasher, say hi to your wife, walk the dog, and even if you get to do something really special, be it being an opera singer or being a Formula One driver or a soccer player or the head of Hoffmann or Roche, you're still nothing else but a mortal human being. And our job in life is to get really old and get really happy. as old and as happy as is possible, because the truth is, you know, you can't take it with you. If my kids at the end of the day can still talk to me and my friends still like me, then you've done something tremendous in life, I think.
True. Thank you.